Welcome back, horror fans. It's Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and that means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast that wants you to put on the damn glasses. Thank you for joining our live show, and for all of our podcast listeners, be sure to check us out so you too can interact directly with the show. This week, we're covering select films released in horror history July 4th through July 10th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Johnny O, and with me tonight are JL and Eugene.
Good evening, everyone.
What's up, everybody?
I'm so glad I chose that for the opening intro line. That was perfect.
Put on the damn glasses. I love that movie.
I thought that
followed by a 5-minute fight scene.
Yes.
Is it still the longest fight scene in cinema history?
I think it is the longest scripted
I think
fight
it
scene.
is. Yeah, because it's like 6 minutes. Like it's just ridiculous.
Ridiculously long. Yeah.
They beat the literal shit out of one another. It was great.
So that laugh whenever John Nada what is it? Oh man, David Clark broke something and John Nada laughed at him. That was not scripted, but because it was at the end of this 5-minute scripted fight, they said, "Fuck it, let's just keep it."
Nice. That's sweet. All right. Well, welcome to another episode of Week in Horror. Man, we've got in the live chat before we dive into things we're going to be talking about tonight. Ivy Gentry first in the chat says, "I've been on Twitter about Loki all day." Well, since like 4 a.m. There's been a bit of a hubbub about Loki.
Yeah, we had a spirited debate. It wasn't mean or anything. So about the whole Loki, is the MCU pandering? Are they not pandering to the LGBTQIA plus? How many letters are they going to fit in there? Can we just say the gay community? Is that okay?
Say the community.
Okay.
But the people who are so apparently there's a lot of people who are raising hell about basically Loki being fluid or whatever. But have they read Sleipnir? Do they understand?
Well, so
what's going on?
No, I hear what you're saying. Right, I hear what you're saying. I think the problem is that the problem that at least Rob, the one that he gave me, was the fact that Marvel waited so long to introduce that it seems like maybe they're just making a play to pander to the gay community. And there's Nerd Angle made a couple of good points of, well, he hasn't had the spotlight, this, that, and the other. There's just a bunch of back and forth. Like they could have set it up, but they didn't set it up. They could have at least alluded to it, but they never really did. And I'm not so sure that even Loki is, quote, gender fluid. He's just a being who can change into whatever he wants. Zeus was the same thing, right? He could change into whatever he wanted, but he never really considered him gender fluid.
Yeah, see, I think one of the big things is the fact that, first of all, they waited so long, and then it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, there's nothing wrong with establishing characters that are gay or bi or fluid. Like, a great example is Captain Raymond Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, who he's a fantastic character who has a lot of depth, who just happens to be gay on top of it. And he's not gay for the sake of being gay. Gay is part of the defining characteristics of his career and the way he runs his precinct on it. And I think it's a great representation of a gay character, whereas this is like this character's been in the MCU for 10 years already. So, by the way, surprise.
Yeah, I think that's what the people who are up in arms about it, that's what their contention is that there was never, even though it is in the source material, it's in the source material of the source material.
Yeah.
That they're, it seems like, well, it just seems like a move because we never mentioned it before. We never said anything before about it.
I think it's accepted to people who understand, or who know Norse mythology, who know the character of Loki, who've read all the comics, understand that it's there. And if it's not the focus of the story, especially in a movie, when you're trying to tell a particular story and keep everything, a part of the same canon, there's really no point in bringing it up. And they're just pissed off about the timing is all it is. I don't think the timing is suspect. I think this is the first opportunity we've had to tell a Loki-centric story where Loki is the main focus of it. We can dive into all things Loki. That's the whole point. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I think they could have done something to establish that, because everybody talks about for instance, Hawkeye, right? Already set up the fact that Hawkeye is going to pass his bow down to his daughter. They set that up in a really quick scene.
Mm-hmm.
Quick scene. They could have done that. They set up the fact that Falcon was going to be the next Captain America early on in the Captain America Falcon kind of thing. They set that up. That was put into place. There were things they could have done, to introduce that fluidity thing, like having Loki. There's so many times that Loki changed into someone, but it was always a man, or it was always a male character. They could have had him once or twice change into a female character, and they could say, look, we set this up, look, here it is. You know what I mean? I understand why people are calling it into question. I'm not necessarily saying they're right, but I get it. I understand why they are.
Well, because you also have that one scene in Endgame, and like in terms of like female empowerment, I always believe that men and women should be equal and all this other kind of stuff. But
Sure.
You have that scene in Endgame where it was like, oh well, she's not alone, and you have all the women gather together. And I understand what Marvel was trying to do, but it felt so forced at the moment, because you even had the Wasp, who's supposed to be in the van helping the Ant, who comes out of the van just for this one moment. Whereas if you had, say, for example, like The Boys, where they're all beating up Stormfront, or in The Mandalorian, where it's just, hey, they're whooping a bad guy's ass and they just happen to be women. And like, I think that's perfectly okay. Like,
interesting that you brought up the scene from because definitely the scene in the MCU and Endgame did have the real and then the big pan out to the wide, all the girls. That seems a little
and it's kind of like
a little forced.
Really?
Whereas in The Boys, that was extremely natural. It just by virtue of the story, the guys were there first and got their asses whipped. And then it just happened to fall on the girls, and the girls happened to whoop her ass up something, happened to like mix her up something fierce, which was fun. That was that was a fantastic scene. Didn't feel forced, felt completely natural, and it was nice to see a Nazi get her ass whooped. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And then, with the last thing I'm going to say about this Loki business, with the reveal, with it being on his police rap sheet, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen a fair bit of police rap sheets. I haven't seen one that has said fluid. Police are going to put what they see. I see a man, so he's going to be a man. And if it were, he's a shapeshifter, they would have put, hey, watch out because he changed his fucking form.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have said gender fluid. They wouldn't have said that. It was forced. But whatever.
But
I'm going to piss off some people, and I want to.
We also have Gavlar, the Hand of Zod. Awesome freaking. I still love his name. Says hi. Man Devil's in the chat. Good to see you, Man Devil. Let's see. Man Devil asks, why not Reanimator? Has it been covered already? We have not covered the first Reanimator yet. We will eventually get there. The Stuart Gordon, Jeffrey Combs masterpiece. We will get there eventually. I think Interest says, for the first time, I'm worried about falling asleep during Week in Horror. Don't worry about falling asleep. If you get tired, go for it. But I'm willing to bet we're entertaining enough to keep you awake.
We're going to try to be.
And apparently, Ivy watched the 2020 Dracula, and started The Haunting of Bly Manor. Excellent. I don't know about 2020. The 2020 Dracula was the BBC produced one. That was like a love letter to Hammer Horror. You're going to love that. And Haunting of Bly Manor was also fantastic. PhD Tony is not on the show tonight. Well, unless Gavlar's asking Ivy, but that probably has nothing to do with us. Charlie Welch, the only man you don't make a bet with, is in the house, says, entertain me. We will try. We will probably fail.
Are you not entertained?
Are you
not entertained?
See, Charlie Welch says, finish Black Summer Season 2. That is the single darkest shit I've ever seen. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Black Summer. Black Summer is a series released on Netflix. It is a prequel series to their zombie series, Z Nation. So they had the Sci-Fi's had a show on there. I think it went like 5 or 6 seasons. I have to double check because I don't have Sci-Fi here. So, but Z Nation was pretty good, and I know it was kind of like a black comedy horror like this. But anyway, Black Summer released and was considerably darker than its predecessor. Very, very dark shit, and it's basically a prequel to how the world ended up like Z Nation. So, and I've heard season 2 is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to sit and watch it on Netflix. Let me see. Chris Durham, Music Channel, is in the house. Good to see you. Whose guest for the trivia question is Sorrel Book.
Does it again.
I don't know how he does it.
Ask.
I have no idea. All right. Sarcasm Sarcasm's in the house. Oh, it friggin' jumped on me. Damn, hang on a sec. Why does it do that? I thought it only did that in on YouTube, but it did it in Streamlab too.
Oh, Streamlabs is really bad. Our Streamyard is really bad about it.
God dang. All right, here we go. Okay, there we go. So, Sarcasm's in the house. Hey, guys, says still at work, engaging lurk mode. All right, and Tani A, another one of our amazing patrons, is in the house. So, well, should we make that announcement in a sec? Tani A is also going to be lurking for a bit. That's okay. Sarah Velez, first time I think I've ever seen Sarah in the chat. Thank you for joining us. It's time to grab my scaredy pillow.
Yes,
no doubt. Oh, the Logical Hillbilly's in the house. Says, hey, what's up, everyone? Good to see you, Logical Hillbilly. And let's see. What is this? Man, I think they prefer the queer community now, at least those who care about the naming. Gay and first attracted only to the opposite sex, I believe. So, I guess it's fair. That sounds fair.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Or same-sex community. Or I'm not sure.
Is it the queer community? Okay. Yeah.
How about the rainbow flag community? Is that offensive? Might be a little offensive.
Might be.
Yeah, but it might be.
But they have a flag.
Right. They do.
You have a flag.
Mr. Malord is in the house. Good to see you, Mr. Malord. Says Phantasm 2, not a bait and switch again. No, it's no bait. I don't think it was a bait and switch because last week we put Relic and not the Relic. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because the makes all the difference.
Yeah, yes,
it is. Yeah. Those articles, man.
I signed up for Steven Dorff and Tara Reid. That's what I signed up for. The fuck's this 2019?
Oh, holy shit! All right. Sarah Vella says she needs her pillow because she loves being terrified. My scaredy pillow is. Sarah Vella says my scaredy pillow is jail. All right, Tina Jones in the. There's Tina Jones. Is peekaboo. Good to see you, Tina Jones. And Bob Nodell's gyroscope is in the house. Good morning. Good to see you, sir. And who else? NA says NA is in the house. Another one of our amazing patrons says Z Nation sucked. Damn.
Everybody's a critic.
Yep.
Z Nation. I think I don't know if Z Nation was made by the Asylum, but the Asylum does I think almost all their work with pretty much predominantly with the Sci-Fi Channel. Z Nation said it was very, very boring. Oh no, he said NA says it was very boring. But then again, NA, to be fair, you have a very particular taste in films. I'll say that. Yeah. Very, very select. But Charlie,
you're the guy that only wants the jar of orange M&Ms, or you won't play.
Pretty much, or he won't go on. No, he will not play. Charlie Welch says Black Summer has suicide warnings and shit. Damn, dark stuff.
Yeah.
All right, and who else we got? Well, I think that's who we've got in the chat right now. Tony Ace is going on day 5 with a migraine and not feeling good. That's why I'm not doing much, but of course had to come. Love you guys. We love you too, Tony. I hope you are feeling better soon. Thank you very much for coming out. Yeah. All right, then.
I used to get cluster. I got cluster headaches one year. I got them so bad. I got them so bad that I had a stroke. Ugh. So they fucking had to take me. I had to get CAT scanned and all that shit to make sure I wasn't fucking dying.
It's literally
it was bad. It was crippling. It was debilitating. I lost 60 pounds in a month because I could not eat. And anytime I thought about eating, I just kept throwing up, and the left side of my face went numb. It was bad. It got bad.
Yeah, that would sound like I can't feel half my body. Yeah, it sounds like you're having a stroke. Damn.
Yeah. So my wife called me. She called the emergency number. What should I do? She said, take him to the hospital.
See, Bob Nadell's Gyroscope says, "Week in horror. What was the zombie movie that Brad Pitt was in?" That would be World War Z.
World War Z.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is a sequel coming.
There is a sequel coming. There is.
Yeah.
We don't need a sequel. We don't need a sequel.
I was just simply stating a sequel is coming.
I know.
the bare minimum.
Yeah, I know.
It was an objective descriptor of reality. A sequel is on the way.
Mine was also a objective descriptor of reality. We don't fucking need a sequel.
Well, we got a few things we wanted to touch on that recently happened this past week, and I was really excited to bring these up because I know the guys want to talk about them.
Not happy about this first one.
First and foremost is the official trailer for Halloween Kills dropped. So no more still photos from the set, no more teasers, nothing like that. So, or no more, footage from the first film being passed off or whatever. But this is the legitimate trailer just dropped. And the big reveal in it was how the fuck Michael got out of the basement, because I sure as hell couldn't figure out how it was going to happen, but apparently it was really, really easy.
Yeah, we all knew it was going to be some magical bullshit.
I don't think it was magical.
Get the fuck out of here. That's one guy. We just lift him out of there. I know he's in a billowing fucking cloud of smoke.
I don't think they lifted him out. I don't
care. He's in a giant burning fireball, breathing in nothing. All the oxygen in the basement where he was gone, it was gone. But he just, lifts himself out of there and kills everybody and fucking get the fuck out of here. So bad. They should have just had a helicopter come in and pick him out and then fucking electrocute him with the, oh, he's back to life.
He might as well just fly out of there.
He fucking, yeah, right. Just sprout wings. Oh.
So Johnny is not pleased.
Look how angry he is.
I'm smiling. Johnny's not pleased with the trailer. Eugene?
I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I've gotten pretty good to be able to tell a good movie or a bad movie based off the trailer. And I didn't get this is going to be amazing vibes from that trailer. I didn't. Like, it could still be good, but I started feeling like it gave too much away on it. Like, for example, okay, we're talking about how cheesy it is that he survived. Why do you even need to show that in the trailer? Like,
yeah, right, exactly.
That could have been a big reveal, yeah.
Yeah, it could have just been like house on fire, and then all of a sudden it's like, we think we're safe, and then he just comes back because he's Michael fucking Myers. And then you can reveal in the movie how he came back, but the fact that they focused so much on it on the trailer gives me red flags, because maybe that's one of the better parts, or the parts they're more proud of in the film, and not necessarily some of the other parts. Like, that's what I'm kind of afraid of. Like, we saw too much in the trailer.
Okay. It's too much of a reveal. I get that.
I think what really kills it for me is that I already know that it's a trilogy. I already know they're going to be 3 movies. So I know that the first one was going to end with the open ending where Michael Myers is coming back. So I know this one is going to end somehow that Michael Myers is coming back for the third one. I know that. I think that they should everybody signs a NDA. Do not talk about, you are not allowed to release that this is going to be a trilogy. Don't tell anybody. Let it just happen.
It's true.
I can go with that. Yeah.
I think just let it happen, occur naturally. Just, just drop them. Yeah.
And I think it would have made it would have made the suspense a little better. And I don't know, maybe that's just me.
So occasionally I think we can agree, and I would agree, I think we can agree that trailers sometimes ruin or can have a more detrimental effect than a positive effect on a film. Now, but that's the difference, I think, between trailers and teasers. Sometimes a teaser is just a little bit to kind of get your imagination rolling. It's like, oh shit, and then you start filling in the blanks yourself without knowing too much about the movie. But what I think only a teaser should have been an official teaser trailer should have been released about this, just like a quick 30 seconds, something like that, just to allude to what was going to happen and then move on from there. But it's possible. Yeah, I have to agree. I think the trailer may have revealed a bit too much, because now I know how he gets out of the basement, and I'm kind of like, okay,
yeah, right. That's the biggest draw to go seeing the movie.
Yeah, it's
because we know it happens, right? We know it has to, or else there's no fucking reason to have a sequel.
Right.
So not knowing how it happens, that would get me to go see it in a theater. Or
absolutely.
At least get me to go see it, right?
At least to figure out how the heck they're going to move from part 1 to part 2. So
right.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest reveal. They gave it away already. It's really stupid.
All right. Well,
what was the greatest teaser trailer ever in the horror film industry?
In horror films?
Yeah.
When the greatest teaser ever?
When Jason took Manhattan. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah,
where he's on the
camera
bridge or
coming in,
something.
and then
He just
and then
walks
it's like
up.
it's zooming in like it's supposed to be like a romantic drama, or it's
Exactly.
like this, and it zooms in and turns around and it's him. Yeah, I do recall it. Yes,
Yeah,
it was like it was like New York at night. And it was at the bridge.
Yeah,
and he's
right.
standing there,
exactly. It was so...
and then the camera's coming in and setting up like it's a completely different movie, and then all of a sudden he turns around and it's him. It's like, oh shit!
Exactly. That's what they should have done with this one.
That's awesome. All right, so if let us know what you think of the recently released Halloween Kills official trailer. You can let us know in the live chat, or let us know down below in the comments, or hit us up weekinhorror@gmail.com. The next one,
Mandevil is perfect. Oh, I love Mandevil. I stood up right there in the movie theater and yelled, "He never got out of the cock-a-doodle car."
You guys complaining about the basement. That's awesome. All right, the next one up was an interesting deal because everyone we've talked about it before, that there is an upcoming kind of like, I guess, like a remake, reboot of the Hellraiser franchise. And so that's
going to be on Showtime, right? Or
HBO Max.
HBO Max.
Yes. Right. And they've revealed that and it was fucked up because it's a gender swapped Pinhead. Mm-hmm. But we know from the original source material, from Clive Barker's source material, that it's not a gender swap. It's actually going with the original stuff, right, and not the Doug Bradley one. But this is a female Pinhead. And I was kind of wanted to get your guys' take on that.
Well, so I think we got to really, if we really do take a look at the source material, it's the Cenobites were genderless. Mm-hmm. So I think that we need to, based on what we see, talking about gender fluidity, I think we need to look at it as just a genderless demon from the lament
further reaches of experience.
Exactly. From the place where nihilism comes from.
Ooh, Tawny A says that no, there was only one Pinhead. I think she's referring to Doug Bradley.
I was going to say Doug Bradley.
It's going to be very difficult to follow that up.
Yeah,
the last two assholes that did a shit job. So
yeah. Hey, Rob Parks, good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. All right, we were talking about the gender swapped Pinhead that's coming to HBO Max. Technically, not a gender swap because the original Pinhead was female in the Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker.
What would be good is if they continue with that the source material, or at least the idea of the source material, where Kirsty Cotton becomes the new priestess of the underworld.
Interesting. Kind of could potentially do like an Evil Dead thing, right? Where it's not so much a reboot or a sequel, but more of a continuation of the story. Intriguing. Yeah. I like that.
Where the exact same thing happens to the lead characters, but whatever. not a reboot at all.
Well, definitely let us know what everyone out there listening. Definitely let us know what you think of this new information. Going back to the source material for the Hellraiser reboot coming to HBO Max, the gender swapped Pinhead. It definitely, obviously, Doug Bradley's getting up there and he is retired from the role. So let's see what happens. Let us know what you think. And of course, the last thing we want to do is we want to make a big announcement. We have 2 new patrons who joined our patron family just recently, and that is Mr. Malort and my man Charlie Welch.
Yes,
who are 2 new patrons. Thank you all so much for your support. And of course, you will get special access to our patron-only area in Discord, and of course, the opportunity to interact with us via After Dark sessions when we do like the movie game or various other things like that, and early access to the After Dark, the Bloodbath, and our Week in Horror newsletter. So thank you so much. Yes, we do appreciate it. You guys rock.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. You help keep the show going.
Absolutely. And definitely look for coming to Patreon for all of our patrons. We have some behind the scenes stuff coming up that we'll be posting up there in July of the Nail Gun remake. So you guys can get first look at some of the behind the scenes stills from behind the scenes, little some photos from behind, or just some photos from behind the scenes and some videos from behind the scenes from the production of that proof of concept film that you guys saw a brief clip of. So cool stuff coming to all of our patrons, and of course later on to everybody else when we were able to reveal it to the public. So thank you all so much again. Charlie Walt says he felt bad after winning so much swag.
Hey, look, fair is fair. So
fair's fair.
Fair is
fair. You know your trivia, or your Google fingers are faster than most people. So,
well, speaking of trivia, speaking of Google fingers, and speaking of what the fuck we're doing here, JL, what movie do we have up first?
Oh, we have an amazing one up first. I can't believe I said it. This one is amazing because
I was like, okay.
I'm not sure I agree with you on that one, but let me pull up and just get my notes real quick because I was on the wrong one. Here we go. So release.
That's what she said.
As the actress said to the bishop. Released July 5th, 1988. I was 8 fucking years old when this movie came out, and man, does this movie show it. The movie's The Rejuvenator. The Rejuvenator, also known as Rejuvenatrix. Directed by Brian Thomas Jones and written by Brian Thomas Jones and Simon Nocturne. Starring Vivian Lenko, John McKay. The story is, for those who most likely have not seen this movie, in a nutshell, The Rejuvenator is about an aging actress who wishes to, who's using her fortune to fund experimental science to try and make her young again. And the scientist that she's funding, as she's keeping him on the leash, like with her sexual wiles and stuff, eventually has a breakthrough and develops something that can turn her from an old woman back into a young woman, with disastrous disastrous side effects that take place. In this genre, there ain't nothing but disastrous side effects.
You mean you mean shit got real?
Shit got very real.
Hey, PhD Tony, good to see you.
PhD Tony is in the house. PH swinging D Tony. Awesome.
PH, I'll give you the D later. Tony.
Another one of our amazing patrons. I'll give you the D later. Good to see you, Tony. All right. So I something that struck me in this that really, really got me. We watch so many horror movies where it's where science pushes too far, or medicine gone wrong, or something of their experimental shit out of control. The one thing that struck me in this was that it was almost a total flip. The actress, played by Vivian Lenko, Mrs. Warren. This is great. But the actress is the one who drives the bad science. The scientist is constantly telling her, "We can't do this. This is unethical. This is unethical. This is bad news. No, it's too risky. You might die and all this stuff." And she's like, "No. I have all this money. Here's a blank check. No, we'll just do it." And it's like, what the fuck? So for once in a horror film, I think this is the first time in a horror film I've seen that with the lead scientist is like, we really shouldn't do this. And it's the person funding the science going, no, we must continue on. And it's like, but other than that, damn. There's a reason this film was free on YouTube to watch. I don't know. I don't know how much I want to comment on the fact that it looked like a VHS transfer when I was watching, and because there were times where the tracking was trying to adjust.
So, okay, for everybody who is under the age of probably 25, tracking is whenever you would put a VHS tape. Now, VHS tape for everybody who's under the age of 30 is this little square thing. Looks like a big cassette tape. Now, a cassette tape for everybody under the
age. Now, a tape is
you have these two reels now in turn.
Now a reel is basically
a photograph when you put it
go to the history of technology. But I have to. But I do have to say, Surf is in the house. Good to see you, Surf. Surf says, you mean Betamax?
Those two.
Yeah.
Fun fact: the reason why Betamax failed is because of the porn industry.
Yeah, porn shows VHS.
Yep.
Oh, but man, oh man, that's the whole reason why what was the other one? The Challenger to Blu-ray was just HD.
HD.
Yeah, HD like DVD.
HD DVD,
like
yeah. And that's what Microsoft was backing. Microsoft backed that, but Sony backed Blu-ray, and the porn industry chose Blu-ray, so that's why HD DVD failed. So it happened again.
Yep.
But anyway, I will say,
Man, Devil Says is a bunch of really fast oil paintings.
Drawn in real time too.
Like a flip book, but
Yep.
Oh my god,
old school animation. There you go.
Oh, Rob Park says, I did not know that the power of boners is strong. Yes, the power of boners rule the world is what they do.
The innovations of the porn industry.
Tanya A says she hated Blu-ray, and I gotta tell you this: when I saw my first Blu-ray disc, I was like, "Why is this thing fucking slimy? Why is it like?" No, it's because they're so slick on the the information side.
Sure.
Oh, shut up.
We're talking about how Sony backed the porn industry. You're like, why is this just so slimy?
Yeah. Commander Darklight's in the house. Good to see you, Commander Darklight. Another one of our amazing patrons.
Good topic change right there. Good topic.
What I was trying to say, Mr. Ballord, you are correct. Porn drives technology.
Yep.
What I was trying to say is that despite the obvious,
the extreme close-up comes from,
despite the obvious fallback, or I would say the obvious, I can't use that term either. I was going to say despite the obvious ball drops, but despite where this movie failed, I do have to admit it felt like a very nice blend between Roger Corman's work, like with the Wasp Woman, and definitely some body horror, some Cronenberg style body horror, trying really hard to be The Fly, but obviously not going to happen. But interesting in that respect. I have to give it that.
Yeah, it kind of it came across. It was, to me, it's kind of like a off version of like Reanimator on it, except for the fact, because Reanimator, you still get a lot of the body horror and all that kind of stuff that we love from like Stuart Gordon, but it didn't quite hit, I think, as well.
Well, because it didn't have a headless dude doing the thing to a lady.
Yeah. Maybe that's what would have made the movie better.
But something you cite, Eugene, a lot. This really didn't have the characterization to really sell something like The Fly did, like Cronenberg. Because I mean, obviously, one of the big things we herald about The Fly, we love so much, is the chemistry between Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis.
Yep.
What makes that is the relationship mechanic is as important as the fact that he's turning into a fly monster. Whereas in this one, all we see is really kind of
they're one-dimensional characters.
Yeah, they're one-dimensional. The scientist is one-dimensional. Well, I mean, he was one-dimensional until like the last 30 seconds of the film, when he's like, "Ha, I will live forever because whatever," and then he dies. So
yeah. So going back to talking about with Jeff Goldblum and all that, he didn't start out as this evil scientist trying to do evil things. He started out as somebody who wanted to make transportation faster.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then he fucked up and turned himself into a monster, which is cool. There's development, there's character there. And he's got this relationship that he's building with Gina Davis. And Gina Davis's character, she's seeing this as a reporter looking at a story. And then all of a sudden now she's involved in this horror. Now she's got, the fly baby inside of her. The story is built. Whereas this one just seems like a bastardization of Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Birthmark.
I can see that.
Okay.
I also kind of got the sensation that, given the monster effects, this was done by Edward French, who is not one of the larger names in the industry, but he did work on several other films, but just wasn't really that huge. This really kind of felt like it could have been an episode of The Outer Limits.
Yeah. I think it could have been reduced to a 45-minute episode, a ride of The Outer Limits, because there's just nothing about this film that like stands out on it, because even if you look at Reanimator, you have Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs is a character that you remember. He is like, boom, he's a scientist, he's driven, and that's what draws you to this film. And we talk about with The Fly, with Jeff Goldblum and stuff like that. This movie, it has some great practical effects and makeup work and all this other kind of stuff, but there's just nothing that's really memorable about it.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, it because there's no character build. There's no like this lady comes in. I'm old, like from the beginning of the movie. Hey, I'm old and dying. I need to be young again. There's no like, her whatever, and then realizing that she's past her prime based on whatever, right? She just sees herself, I'm getting older. I need to be young. I need to be younger and live forever again. There's no development there. There's no reason other than she's getting older. Like, cool, everybody's getting older. Why this particular woman decided that she had to spend all of her fortune on not getting older? Even if the answer is as obvious as society deems that women who are past a certain age aren't considered attractive anymore because of whatever. Besides, even if that would have been it, that would have been good enough to help build some character.
Yeah, like maybe she was the star actress that we see here constantly getting turned down for roles, or as like studios or like producers and directors are turning their back on her, and she's like a good person, but she's like she thrives in that limelight, and say she wants like the one last time to be the star of something, and that's why she's so obsessed. So you can really build that characterization, and then the gore and the transformation and stuff is just a byproduct of that. That would have been a better story.
That definitely would have helped that would have helped us as the audience to adjust to the fact that she so readily and so easily accepted the fact that she was turning into a monster that was ripping people's heads off and eating their fucking brains.
Right.
So it's kind of like, because in the movie, it definitely, she comes along. I mean, they have the big moment where obviously the research assistant, is there, and then she encounters her after she's transformed, and she knocks the top of her head off and eats her fucking brain, and then she transforms back, and then the main doctor suddenly arrives and is like, oh my god, you killed the assistant, and then she's back to normal again. So she realizes now that she can eat brains and go back and forth, but the character seemed to accept that a little too easily. Like, this is just who I am now. This is fantastic. This is gonna work. They're like, this is gonna work out. I've got plans. It's like, no.
Wait a minute. I just gotta eat a brain or two for lunch and dinner, and I'm good. Fuck, let's do it.
Yeah, that's about it. Instead of, you could have really dove into a morality part where it's like, it's her drive versus the cost of that drive.
Definitely.
What is the sacrifice, and really play that up.
Yeah, like they like I would say, harkening back to like Cronenberg. Cronenberg was really, really good, especially with the film like Rabid, where she used the experimental treatment to survive the motorcycle accident she's in, but then she develops the thing that comes out of her armpit and turns people into zombies and shit.
Wasn't that Return of the Living Dead 3?
No, yeah.
Motorcycle accident, breaks her neck, brings her back to life, and all of a sudden she's this like stab herself nude thing running around all the place.
Oh yeah. That's how I swing. But I tell you, ever since I was a young man, I had a fascination with that cover, because why is she so hot yet so gruesome? Why is that?
I did not get down with that cover. I thought, here comes somebody with razor wire fucking sewing on her face. Like, I'm gonna let her go in front of me.
Fingers.
I'm gonna let her go in front of me to get the soda at the place or wherever we're at. She can go before me. We're cool.
Depends what she's gonna do with that razor wire.
Nothing good can come from that razor wire and me. Okay.
Well, one thing I can say, or I thought was kind of interesting was, and I think that they should have spent a little bit more time on it. It was definitely it was a body horror film, because she's transforming into a monster physically, and they got like the head going blah blah,
right?
She gets all slimy all of a sudden. So we got the body horror aspect, and then you have the kind of science run amok, bad experimental shit.
Mm-hmm.
But there was almost like a neo-noir flair to it. It was in the way it was shot. So it was almost like the director, Brian Jones, was trying to shoot this thing. Did anybody else get a Sunset Boulevard vibe off this thing?
And see, maybe that was something that was also off, because I like noirs, but why would you shoot this type of story in a noir way? It seems weird.
Yeah, so I respect the film for trying to mix genre. I respect that, right? Trying new things, especially during the 80s when the horror film genre was really blowing up. with different styles, body horror and monster films and slashers and all this shit. I respect it for trying to at least, hey, let's try something different. Let's mix some things in there. But I think this is just not the story. I don't know. I think if it had better character development, better story arcs, I think it would have worked as a noir.
Okay, maybe that's right, because I'm thinking like in terms of 80s, think like Blade Runner, and it was almost like they watched Blade Runner and then they're just like, I kind of like the lighting in there.
Yeah,
exactly. We don't have it takes place modern day, not in the future, but we'll use the same lighting and same like shot compositions for it. But Blade Runner is very character driven and very well thought out in terms of its story and philosophy.
And it has Harrison Ford in it.
And it has Harrison Ford. But Harrison Ford admitted he half-assed the film and then watched it afterwards and he was like, oh, okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll tell you, nobody else half-assed it in that film.
Yeah,
because Edward James Olmos, Daryl Hannah, Rutger Hauer. I thought everybody was amazing in that.
Even what's her name? The
Sean Young. Sean Young was fantastic. So. But yeah, I just that was the one thing that kept grabbing me as I was watching this, because this could have been a throwaway just monster film. Like I said, it could have been an episode of Outer Limits, the evils of science, or being greedy, or something like it had been a cautionary tale of the actress's attitude. We could have just fit this all into like a 30 to 45 minute production, and then just put it on and it tamed down the gore, and it could have been a Twilight Zone episode. So it could have been that, stretched it out into a feature length, which is fine. But it was the way it was shot kept grabbing my attention. I was like, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, why did he choose to do that? Maybe. And I started thinking, maybe because the director knew that this was not going to be a great movie, and he had to do something to make it interesting. At least do something visually interesting.
Let's make it as pretty as possible.
Yeah, just try to do something to kind of set it apart. Which it kept my attention to the credits. I got to give it that. So,
yeah.
I think that this is something that should have spent another probably 6 weeks in pre-production development, and I think it would have made it a much better film.
Definitely.
Characterization.
Characterization. We have to. We have to. I mean, the audience has got to care about the people on screen. If they're one-dimensional, there's nothing to connect them to them. Especially if they're tropes, where typically these are bad tropes. Like the completely out of touch of reality actress, the scientist willing to go against ethics, the whatever. There's nothing more within them than why would we care about whatever happens to these people. That's what makes the slasher film so great, is because we love the backstory of the slasher, like Friday the 13th, why that works. We love the backstory of Jason. We love the backstory of everything that led up to him being what he is. And all these teens we throw into the wood chipper, there's a reason, because they're pointless. They're fodder. Unless it's the one final girl, and the final girl gets stuff to make us care about her being a final girl.
Right, but even still, we can kind of care about these teenagers who are just fodder, right? Because they are there and being thrown into the wood chipper as fodder for no fault of their own, right? So you've got, when you're talking about Friday the 13th, you're talking about a mother who lost a child many years ago to completely different group of people.
Yep.
Yet she's taking it out on these kids. Like, they had nothing to do with what happened to her son. So we can kind of care about them. Like, well, they're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that fucking sucks. Even things like that, little things like that, man, really go a long way to help make a story, to get people invested into this story.
Definitely.
All right. Well, one thing I want to ask our audience, given this film was released under 2 different titles, which one did y'all prefer? Peach Tony says you're trying to generalize a category of films. He's always got a date. No,
Tony hates literature. It's all.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So, which title do you think would have been better on this movie? Rejuvenatrix, or the one it went with, the Rejuvenator?
Polish a turd.
Doesn't matter.
I want to know, because I think if this had been released as Rejuvenatrix, I think it might have done a little bit better. I think so, but but then again, maybe not, because it probably would have pissed people off more, because it wasn't like there's a lot of sex in this thing. There was one sex scene and a few boobies. That's it.
So your typical horror film.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't even that. But it wasn't. The boobies weren't even the focus of the scene.
What are you, 6 boobies?
Boobies. Okay. Well, that's true. Jessica G's not in there, so I can say titties. The titties were actually tertiary, actually like off to the side. It was like, oh, hey, there's some titties over there on the corner of the frame, but it's not the focus of the frame. There just happens to be titties in the background. I don't know.
I want to point out that if Jessica G popped in right now, it would be the slowest play, like prank ever. Just be got you, recording, boom, I'm out.
Man Devil says it should have been Forever Young. That's never been a terrible movie, right? Hey, I like that Mel Gibson film, okay? Where he's the young guy turns into the old guy.
It was one of the few good Mel Gibson films.
Yeah, it was cute.
Elijah Woods was really good. Jamie Lee Curtis was really good.
Sarah Vela says, I'm not sure. Think it would have had the same impact. Most likely. I honestly, with Rejuvenatrix, you expect something a little bit more Corman-y and less Cronenberg, because this was a little bit more Cronenberg than it was Roger Corman. With Corman, we need lots of titties, lots of ads, lots of TNA is what we need. This is the hallmark. Lots of TNA, lots of gore. It's just the hallmark of a standard Corman horror film. So I think it took a little bit more from the Cronenberg side, which was fine, but we just didn't have the characterization to back it up.
I think a rose is but a rose, no matter what you call it.
This is a turd is but a turd.
And this one, this one probably more accurately, a turd is a turd, no matter which way you smell it.
Well, pretty much everybody's in the mind. It was like, Rejuvenator was fine. Rejuvenator would have worked. So yeah, I think probably I have to remember this was, yes, Tony A says you have to remember that this was in the 80s. This was 1988. In fact, you mentioned 1988. Oh, you mentioned earlier Friday the 13th Part 8 came out in 1988, which is funny. All right. We have Bob Nodel's Jackson says, don't forget, Mel Gibson was good in Mad Max. He was
good. I like Mad Max. I like the first two. Yeah.
He was also fantastic in Lethal Weapon. I liked him in the first Lethal Weapon. That was just the
I liked him in the first, and the fourth. 2 and 3.
He was good at 2. He was good at 2.
Well, he
wasn't the problem with 2.
Yeah, he wasn't the problem with 2, and he wasn't the problem with 3.
Yeah, that was some other stuff. But I really actually enjoyed 4. I liked 4 a lot better than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Because of Chris Rock.
I swear.
4. 7. Oh, I messed up. Let me start over again.
Yeah. All right. But Eugene, you've got our next one. What do we have? I promise we're going up. We can only go up from here. We can only go up from this last one.
So the next film we have coming up is Sharknado release. No, I'm just kidding.
You should have went with it.
I didn't write this. I didn't write it.
This is not. You just stick with the copy, Eugene. The copy is good. Stick with the copy.
Stick with the copy. Release.
God damn it! Eugene will read whatever's on that thing.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
I fucking knew he was going to go there.
All right. Released July 8th, 1988. We have the second installment in the Phantasm series. I know a couple people have already talked about it. We have Phantasm 2, directed by Don Coscarelli. If I got that right.
You knocked it out of the park. Nice.
Woo! I will never say that name again. He will be, from here on out, he'll be known as the director. That's it.
The guy behind the camera.
Yeah, the one guy who put this together. And so we have starring James Lee Gross, Reggie Bannister, Angus Scrimm, Paula Irving, and Samantha Phillips. And basically, in a nutshell, you have the character who gets out of the mental institution after the haunting things that happened to him in the first Phantasm, and he actually goes after the tall man to try to end the tall man's murderous spree.
Mm-hmm.
And shit gets real.
And shit gets spherical.
Spherical, yeah. As in a lot of flying balls. I just wanted to say flying balls. I'm gonna be honest.
There were a lot of flying balls.
Many flying balls.
Many flying, because it's the 80s, and as JL has put on the script, bigger is better.
Yes, bigger. Well, that was the trope of the 80s, man. If you were coming out with a sequel in the 80s, it had to be larger, and it just I don't know. This seemed to be the thing. It wasn't really there in the 70s, but in the 80s, all of a sudden, it had to be. I just had to be larger. It had to be, you either have more explosions, you got more guns, you got more action. Mm-hmm. You just got, easier lines, easier storylines, something really, really much easier to follow. Nothing convoluted, nothing abstract. Just, gives it. Here's the nutshell. It's formulaic. 1, 2, 3. These are your acts. Right. Load it up with as much hardcore as you can, and then that's what people wanted in the 80s, or at least that's what studios thought people wanted in the 80s, because this was a far cry from. This was a big difference between Coscarelli's original vision in the first Phantasm and obviously to this one. This was a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, the 80s was where it was at, right? So if you think about film industry, what the hell? Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that. That's one of the reasons why bigger had to be better. A, because they were all jacked up, and B, because they needed to pay for that jacking up.
Got that nose candy. Get that nose candy on the set.
That's
cocaine, the hell of a drug.
They all saw that scene in Scarface and said, "Hey, I bet we could do that."
There's one of those. Where's the cocaine table at?
I see the muffins and I see the coffee, but I don't see the Coke. Oh, what's right here in this bottle? No, so shit. Fucking hell. But yeah, so if you look at the 80s, you look at you had the 50s, 60s, where film really started to kind of blossom into the formula which we're talking about, the three act film formula, where it's more cohesive and it's not as stylized. And then you get into the 60s and the 70s, and film kind of goes this not weird direction, but a little bit different of a direction, where it's more story centric and not as what's the word I'm looking for? Not as like, ooh, look at me, there's buckets of blood. And then 70s, 80s, now slashers, specifically talking about the horror film genre. Then you have slashers coming out and start more blood and this and the other. 80s, like, man, fuck this. We need to really ramp this shit up. And the 80s for me has always been the best generation when it comes to filmmaking, just in general, because we had more awesome things come out of the late 70s and the 80s, and we did it, I think, just about any other generation, especially afterwards. Right? It's like the 80s was like the last really good golden years of new ideas.
The filmmakers were still, or big studios were still willing to take risks.
Right.
And because making books into films was hit or miss. It had the same gamble as doing anything original. And I'm like, looking at this date of when this one came out. This came out in 1988. Well, you look at what are some of the best sequels that came out. You got Aliens, the second one, which I think came out in 86. Bigger, better, more explosions, more aliens. You look at Empire Strikes Back that came out in 1980. Yeah, now we got a battle on a planet, and we got this lightsaber battle. We have all this stuff. It's bigger, better. And people at the same time knew the bankability of sequels, because you have all the Friday 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff. And so we're always going to up it. We're always going to be bigger, better, all this other kind of stuff.
One thing I think that sequels always seem to miss out on was the ability, especially nowadays, is the ability that you're already coming into a story that's built, right? So the first film builds your storyline. We already have the backstory. We should already have at least, the majority of the backstory that we need. You can kind of fine tune some things, but you can get into the action quicker, get into the meat and potatoes faster. More Reggie singing.
I love Reggie. I really do. He's one of my favorite characters. I mean, obviously he's in all 5 films. He makes the fucking movie. I mean, I love the work that he does. And he's also really, really awesome whenever he I hope I get to run into him again at another convention like Texas Frightmare. I hope he shows up. But he's a blast. The dude's obviously very, very cool. One thing that I really say, obviously, when they do this with a friggin' sequel, bigger is not always better. We can definitely say that. Right. I did like the concept of having the having because in the first film was very, very abstract, very, very dream. There's almost an ethereal, dreamlike quality to it. Like, is this really going on? Where it blurs the lines between what is reality and what is or I guess what the reality we know and the reality of something else, like the dreamscape or something. So there was the moment. Obviously, the moments in the funeral home were very, very intense, and could have been easily a dream as it was real life. Coscarelli intended for the whole series. The entire series is a meditation on the death of one's parents, and which is where I think the first film it really encapsulates that beautifully. The only thing that gave us good about going bigger and better with the sequel was that we got Angus Scrimm, who is obviously boy, I fucking love that shit. In the first one, he's like a scary, imposing figure. He's like the Shape in Halloween. He's just like the image of the tall man. But in the second one, we get to see this motherfucker is a serious goddamn badass. And it's not just he's the imposing presence. He actually gets to be like the straight up villain that this is why he's not just scary because he looks scary or implied that he's scary. No, legit, we get to find out that, he is scary. So I like that concept a little bit, getting to add in a little. It was a good justification for exploring his character more and finding out why he's the big bad villain of this franchise. And I dug that very, very much.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I like a little bit more of the abstract. I think it sets the tone a little bit more because the series revolves so much around death on it. They're in the funeral home, mortician, and all this other kind of stuff. And it would have been interesting to continue to go down that route with a little bit of abstract, which they return back to in a third one. But I always compare it to like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where you have the very first one is a art house film. It's very artistic and all the other it's artistic. It's everything. That's why some people may not say it's the first pure slasher film because it's more of an art house. Then you get to the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre and they're underground. It's crazy and mini chainsaws and all this other kind of stuff out of nowhere. Once again, the 80s, bigger.
Yeah. You go to the third one. How big was the chainsaw in the third one? The fucking thing was like 4 feet long.
Why not?
and it's made of gold. And it's emblazoned with the saw or the saw's family. It's just like, what is this custom-made chainsaw shit?
I mean, if you're gonna have a chainsaw, you might as well be, fucking gold embroidered and custom with your studded diamonds and your name on there, Phantasm.
So it doesn't just apply. So the bigger and better, and just more action, more explosions. It doesn't just handle for sci-fi movies or action movie itself. Also applies to the horror genre, especially in the 80s. So they always got you look at Predator 86. Predator 2, I think, was it 92?
I think it was 90.
Like 91?
90 or 91.
I think it was 91.
I think it was 5 years. It was 5 years after the first one, right? 91?
1990. Yeah, it was 1990.
Okay,
90, okay.
So right there on the tail end, like we're coming right off the 80s, but definitely bigger, more explosions, more action, more guns. I mean, Phantasm 2, the triple barrel shotgun.
Why
they
not?
had that, and then I saw that years later I see a zombie film where it has a quad barrel shotgun, so it just keeps getting
I mean, look, and then fast forward, we have a vampire film where you got a 6-shooter pecker gun.
There you go. Filmmaking is escalation. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I really think that a lot of people, when they get into that, well, we got to do it bigger, we got to do it better, we got to boom, 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 boom. I would like to see somebody take, like, there was no way that James Cameron could have done Aliens less than Alien, right? So that one had to go bigger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see somebody take one that's already, kind of in the middle, somewhere medium, where it's not, it's not really over the top, but it's not really subdued, or then take it down. Like, I would like to see somebody take a Friday the 13th, for instance, and make it into more of a psychological horror film.
Interesting. Okay.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Stephen King was talking about possibly doing writing a Friday the 13th story, or possibly screenplay from the film is from the perspective of Jason.
Ooh. Titties, cut them off.
Tony Regime says, and Tony Regime, thank you for joining us tonight. It's good to see you. Says 80 sequels were just too eager to jump the shark.
I see what you did there.
Rob Parks, which chainsaw is it? It's the one with bad motherfucker on it.
You know what? That would be the shit. That would be
it.
I would love to see that.
You know, yeah, because what was it? Sam Jackson said he wanted to be in the new Star Wars film, but he wanted to be, singled out, distinguishable. And the only way he could be distinguishable is if he had a purple lightsaber. So if he's going to be in, hey, Sam Jackson, be, Freddy. Cool. Well, my glove has to say.
Man Devil, yes, the shotgun I was referencing was Undead, one of the best Aussie zombie horror films. But yes, that quad barrel shotgun was badass. And Mr. Lore reminds me that yes, Reggie strapped 2 double barrel shotguns together. How he made that bad boy. So Rob Park says he thinks that they're trying to do that with Halloween, Johnny.
Are they?
I see this the new Halloween Kills one. Like it feels like it's trying to be bigger than the first one. I got that vibe right off the bat.
Yeah, with the whole obviously the house burning down, he comes out. That's the start of the movie. It's a big fiery inferno, and then he's back on the streets. He's killed all the firefighters. Now Laurie is going to unite the town of Haddonfield against Michael as he is. Slicing his way through everybody.
Would she really need to would that be like a campaign she would have to go through though? Hey guys, there's a big tall guy killing people. Let's go get him. Nah, I like his politics.
You know what I want to see? I want to see an all-out battle, like Braveheart style, or like The Dark Knight Rises, where you have Michael on one side and the entire town on another side, and they like run into each other, and then Michael's like winning as he's hacking people.
On everybody. Fucking, he's got like this, fucking scythe and shit, just like fucking chopping people all Interview with a Vampire style.
Yeah, just straight up epic battles.
Got all kinds of weapons and shit, machetes and knives and all this shit. It's fucking just hacking people to death.
Two shotguns in the back.
Dude, fucker like Michael Myers just wading into it like Tom Cruise in Collateral. Just like So Man Devil says, imagine if Jason's inner monologue was eloquent like Nick Cage in Raising Arizona.
All right, so you say that as a joke, and it would be fucking hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
But I do think that if it was more like a Norman Bates style thing going on in there, that would be
interesting. Really
interesting and on point with the character, because he was very much in love with his mother. Not like, a sexual way, but, that was his like driving force.
Mm-hmm. So Halloween meets High Noon.
Exactly. Yes.
And Tony Regime says, my guess of the trivia question is Ed Gein. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. But all right. Well, we've talked about quite a few sequels. And what I would actually want to ask the audience is, what is your favorite entry in the Phantasm series? There's 5 of them total, and they're all good. They're all good for different reasons, but they're actually all good. This isn't one of those where it's like, okay, the first one and the first 2 are good, and then it's just complete trash. There's decent entries in all 5. So let us know in the comments below, or shoot us an email at weekinhorror@gmail.com. What is your favorite Phantasm entry?
I think it had, and it was better than any. I think it had any right to be. Ravager was good. The 5th one was a surprisingly good wrap up to that franchise, because Angus, and I'm so glad that they got Angus Scrimm throughout the whole thing, because he was getting up there in years, but they were able to finish it strong, and he passed away. I think shortly after the release of Ravager, but. I was like, oh man, the 5th one, Angus has passed away, but it wasn't like he was, too sick or too frail. It wasn't like seeing, what breaks my heart, it wasn't like seeing Sid Haig in 3 from Hell, because you could tell
Rob Zombie should be fucking beat for making Sid Haig be in that film.
Yeah, it was just, it was hard. I mean, it was difficult to watch because you could tell, he was sick. and they managed to get this one scene out of him, and at least he kind of had the energy there and everything, but it was just a sad reminder of what we already knew. It was like, fuck, and we should see him like right on his way out, which kind of broke my heart a little bit. But I like this one. Angus Scrimm was fantastic. He still had the voice. He still had he had the presence, and he was able to bring it. And Ravager was way better than I anticipated it was going to be. It really was.
I think Ravager was better than what anybody anticipated. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, when I'm going into a 5th film in a franchise, I'm not expecting much. Even if you somehow blow me away with the 4th film of it, just series in general, if you blow me away with the 4th film and they're like, we're coming out with a 5, I'm always like, should you? Should you?
Here's an interesting question before we dive in. Before Johnny takes our 3rd film.
I'm sorry, I just read the Patrick Stewart comment.
If Jason's inner monologue was voiced by Patrick Stewart, thank you, Gavlar, the head of Zod. And I'm going to have that in my head for every time I watch a Friday the 13th. So,
why here's the thing. So, girls kissing each other.
So we've talked about the end. Yes, Mr. Lloyd. Yeah, Ravager was a pleasant surprise. We always talk about pretty much the end of the franchise, any credibility in the franchise, when it goes to space. So Jason goes to space, Leprechaun goes to space, Hellraiser goes to space. Did Phantasm ever go to space?
I think it should have gone to space.
Because technically it was like space-time. It was like alternate dimensions and alternate timelines.
I wouldn't consider it space. Yeah. To me, space is like you're on a space station, like Leprechaun in space or Jason X. Like you're on a space station.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Or Critters in space, because Critters 4 was in space. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So if it's on a space station or a spaceship, legitimately extraplanetary in space,
outer space.
Yeah, because just different dimensions and stuff like that. Like Hellraiser, where they go the second one where they go into the other dimension. I wouldn't count that.
What Mr. Malort brings up a good question. Another planet?
That's not space.
That's not space. That's technically not space.
Technically not space, but we can make the sci-fi connection there. So
okay, gotcha. But technically,
that's a gray area.
But technically, we wouldn't say Phantasm in space.
Yeah, I wouldn't. No, because it has to be actually in space. Another planet or another dimension to me wouldn't count.
Rob Parks brings up a good point. Unless someone dies in an airlock, it's not space.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
That makes sense.
But nobody died in the airlock in Alien. It was in space.
In the first Alien?
Yeah.
The alien. Well, the alien got blasted.
He blew it out the goddamn.
Yeah, it's the alien can survive in space, but she blew it out through the air.
She blew it out the airlock, and then it went into the, and then it tucked itself up into the engine, and then she blasted. Okay, I think that's space.
Does that count?
Yeah. That counts.
Yeah, that's still space. They're not. They're only for a planet briefly. That's it.
No, I know aliens in space. Yeah, I'm there. But the airlock thing.
The airlock thing.
Oh, the airlock. Let's see.
I think it's part of the death chain. Like if the alien was blown out and then came back in and they fought again, then I would say no. But the airlock was instrumental in the alien's death.
Bob
I
Nodell.
don't know. I thought
Bob
Nodell
was it's 2:15. It is 2:15 in Ireland, where Bob Nodell's gyroscope is. Thank you for joining us. He's going to go to bed, so he's getting sleepy. So. Okay, Broad Parks is blown out an airlock. So yes, blown out an airlock.
Okay.
And then Dave Mandel says Dave almost died in an airlock. This is require more study, more research.
Yes,
more research, and we will figure out an answer to this. This is interesting. Is technically okay. So the question is, is a space when a horror movie goes to space? Is it a space film if someone does not get blown out of an airlock? Or is that a qualifier?
Well, so then we can't say that Bloodline, because nobody got blown out of an airlock in Hellraiser Bloodline.
So maybe it has to be because I was just thinking. I was thinking, Event Horizon had an airlock scene.
Yep.
Alien Resurrection had an airlock scene.
Yep. Alien 2 Aliens had an airlock.
I don't think Critters had an airlock scene.
But I guess there was one in space. The fourth one was in space.
Yeah. The fourth one was Critters 4 was in space, and I don't think it had an airlock scene.
I'm trying to. I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't remember one. Anyways, of course, I've only seen the movie maybe 2 or 3
I've
times.
seen him. I've seen it maybe once or twice.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll look into it. We'll definitely look into this. This is an interesting question.
We won't do that. We won't look into it. We'll forget about it as soon as we turn this shit off.
No. These two are
JL's. Yeah, he's taking notes.
These two are going to forget about it. I will be all over this shit and be like, I've got a fucking answer.
Yeah, because these two work. I work on this.
I was almost tempted on social media, like the Week in Horror page. I was gonna take a picture of like the television screen with Rejuvenator and just like boom. I love my job.
Fucking yay. All right, let's fast forward out of the 80s.
Sorry, I mean, Phantasm is probably a slimy Blu-ray kind of movie. Man. Okay, yes.
Now there's a little bit of dispute between JL and I because he likes to say one thing and I say the truth. But
what the fuck? The intention is it was American release dates.
Okay. We'll go with what JL says because it makes him happy and then whatever. We're talking about the 2020 film The Beach House. Written and directed by Jeffrey A. Brown. It is starring Lena Liberato, Noah LaGrosse, Marianne Nigel, and Jake Weber.
Fun fact. Noah LaGrosse, the son of the dude who replaced Mike in Phantasm 2.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize until I chose the movies and I was looking into them, doing the research, and it was like, wait, LaGrosse, that's the same fucking name as the dude to replace Mike before they got rid of him and they put the original Mike in 3. And I was kind of like, wait a minute, holy shit, that's his son. So yes, the replacement Mike's son was in The Beach House. There you go. Fun fact. So this is what happens in this beach house. You have a couple who arrive at so Emily and Randall arrive at Randall's parents' beach house at a remote vacation town. One of them has dropped out. Randall has dropped out of college and is trying to get the other, Emily, to do the same and live at the beach house permanently. But as Eugene likes to say, that was a cue.
Let's try this again. But as Eugene, that's you, likes to say,
I think he's talking to you.
This is really awkward. I'm just waiting. Because shit gets real.
There we are. All right. This was an interesting film. I got to watch this one in like 15-minute maximum segments. So it took me like 2 days to watch this whole movie.
Really?
I don't really get a whole lot of concentrated time to look at films. So what'll happen is when I'm in the back, and I probably shouldn't say this because my bosses could be watching, but when I'm in the back at work, I'll put on, hey, we got these movies I got to watch. Cool. I'll put them on and then I'll do paperwork and it'll be running and I'll try and pay attention when I can, but I got to pay attention to my work because if I don't do that, I can't watch them here because the kids are around and I don't want them seeing that stuff just yet. So yeah. While I press down small little chunks of movies.
Yeah, Mandel's making the deal. So while I press down on your foot and look you in the eye and say, hi, you respond with this. The Simpsons reference, I think. Yep. And Homer's like, I think he's talking to you. And I say, hello, Mr. Anderson. You say hi.
Yeah.
And Sarcasm says, Strike the Legend is in the house. Hey, Strike. And Sarcasm says, I'm still waiting for the Then Shit Gets Real t-shirt. Well, I got to put it up on Teespring.
We have to do it. It's already catchphrase.
Yes, it's Eugene's catchphrase.
Wow. So that should be the kink shaming, the kink shaming.
Kink shaming cannibals.
Cannibals. That should be the name of their first record.
Yeah.
Oh, shit gets real.
Shit gets real.
Then shit
Are
gets real.
you ready? Yeah.
So
Matter of
one
fact,
thing
I'm going to
one
write that
thing
song right now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was pleasantly surprised by this one. Not a lot of fanfare with this movie coming out. It just kind of hit, and I think I caught
It was
the
bad
trailer.
timing. I think it was bad.
Yeah,
timing,
it wasn't well timed and wasn't heavily marketed. I caught the trailer one time and was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting, and managed to catch it on digital. And I streamed it, and I actually streamed it to the Discord before, and we had a bunch of people kind of watch that one. I will give it this. This definitely could have fallen to the wayside, but the one saving grace, because the acting was kind of there. It was what you expect for a horror film. It was young kids, that's what they're doing. But the one saving grace of this film, it had a lot of squirm moments that'll make you squirm because because practical effects is what saved this bad boy. I enjoyed what they did with this, and I liked there wasn't a digital shit, and it was not just the practical effects. Especially after the beach scene when she's out there on her bare feet. Not just that scene alone, but also I did really dig the editing on this, and given the whole the hallucinatory effect that what was happening was having on the people, on the victims to to what was going on. We'll dive into the event a little bit later, because once you hear about it, it's kind of like, really.
It was heavy-handed. It was
a bit heavy-handed.
Yeah,
but I did like and if they left it unexplained, that would have been really, really good. I think it's just kind of ambiguous, like what could have possibly happened? Is it aliens or something like this? But no, it went heavy-handed. But the practical effects,
beat us over the head with it.
Yeah, the practical effects is what saved this, because the beach scene leading up to the kitchen scene was really fucking cringy. It was just like, but yeah. So.
Yeah. The thing is, at the very least, you're right. I mean, as I said, the practical effects are what, and I'm glad to see that you have these newer horror movies going back to practical effects, because it went CG effects for a long time, and then you get this hybrid practical CG effect where the wound will look real, but the blood splatter will still be CG, and it's like just when it comes to wounds,
squibs are expensive.
They are.
But the thing is this is where you got to get creative.
Yeah,
you have to get creative. If you can't afford squibs and a special effects like coordinator and stuff like that, there's YouTube videos, DIY, build your own stuff to make it get the effect, or just shoot around it. There's editing for a fucking reason. Just cut it better.
Yeah. Eugene, you're not irritated by this subject at all.
No, it has not bugged me in any way
because
whatsoever.
When you're going through a major scene like this, the biggest thing you want to maintain is the suspension of disbelief. And a bad editing move, or too hard of an edit, too soft of an edit, linger too long, can spoil the entire scene. Even if it's just like even if you're in a sequence where you're like boom, 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 you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got to get through six shots, and it's going to compose this entire scene. You fuck up on one edit in there. You drop the ball on either too hard of a cut or too slow of a cut, too soft of a cut. The music's off in some way. You're going to spoil the entire thing. The whole thing, all of a sudden, because the audience is supposed to be on the edge throughout the whole thing. You give them a reason to be off that edge, they are going to run from that edge as quickly as they can. And
especially in a horror film, right?
Yeah, especially in a horror film. And that's what I really, really dug about the I would say. The beach house had several key scenes, which I think were extremely well planned and extremely well set out, all interconnected, kind of like the connective tissue of the movie by, damn it, what's the fucking word? Exposition. All connected by exposition, but exposition about the characters, exposition about why they're out there, exposition about what's going on with the other people, the other couples that they encounter. And that, but predominantly, I think when this movie was being written, what I got the feeling is that it was, we need this scene, we need this scene, we need this scene, and we need this scene. So we've got like our 4 or 5 big scenes, which are our horror movie scenes. Now we need a way to connect. We have a reason. Now we need a reason to connect them all together. So, and then we get into our very heavy-handed reason as to why they were. But I will give it this: the cinematography. Really strong. I like the camera work in this one. It set up a really good atmosphere, considering at the end it's very post-apocalyptic. And then I really dug I dug the slow burn build until we have these extreme moments. And, and I'm always going to go back to the big sell moment was the on the beach looking at her foot, and then, the crawl, the agonizing crawl up to the kitchen to get the tongs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's and it was nice. It was practical. It was good. It sold it. And it was kind of like, and the fucked up thing was, I don't know about y'all, but the scene hit me most because when I was young, I actually injured one of my feet very, very badly. And feet don't, when injured in specific, when hurt in a specific way or cut in a specific way, feet don't bleed that extreme. They don't, especially on the soles of your feet. So what I was watching was like, fucking hell, because I know what I'm looking at. I was like, yeah, that seems like a thing that kind of plays anatomically speaking. Not like when someone gets shot and it's just like, it's like, that's not even a vital area where they're just spraying blood out. It's like, that's just silly.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't look like that when someone gets shot.
Exactly.
It really does when the clothes are like.
This one got me. This one, I was like, I had to. There were moments it wasn't overtly. It was just kind of like, oh fuck me running, and then you kind of got to like, and then finally we're over, and she's like, okay, we're good to go. So Tony Regime says, I tried to watch Black Sheep, but I had to turn it off. It's just too obviously Peter Jackson fanboy director. Homage is fine, but damn, Black Sheep. But practical effects in that one, because that was, I think, virtually all practical effects in that one. But that's what made this movie. That's what I dug the beach. I dug it. Just kind of like if you were to midnight movie this thing, it wouldn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, the beach had the slow burn elements that I like. I think it was it was too heavy-handed with the whole, message of the movie.
Yes.
That's where you really fall flat on horror films. Horror films are supposed to have some sort of, meaning beyond the meaning type of thing, but this one here was just like, nope, this is the meaning. This is what we're talking about. Let me punch you in the fucking face with it as many times as I can, just in case you didn't figure it out.
Yeah.
The first 15 times I punched you in the face with it.
Yeah, we're gonna spoon feed the audience. This instead of something where it's kind of like subvert and it guides you to the conclusion at the very end. This is just straight like global warming.
Yeah,
that's what's happening. This is. I mean, it's like it beats you almost as much as Birdemic does when I have my full electric Mustang. It's my hybrid. It's weird polluting. Blah 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 blah. And now the birds attack and everything. Yeah, I'm fine with global warming movies. And I'm fine with films where it's like, oh, well, humans are fucking up the environment. And there are some good ones out there, like The Ruins. But everyone that punches you in the face with it, that feels like it has to beat you with the stick, they're all bad. All of them. Like, just straight up. Like, it's... I get it. When you have different subject matters, for example, we talk about films that deal with, like, grief. They're like Midsummer, Babadook. It's very subverts. It's very
they seem to try to misdirect you, right?
Yes.
This one didn't.
No, not at all. Not at all. There was nothing. There was no nuance to it, where it's just kind of like, boom, this is what we're doing. Just like these are the things that can happen if we keep doing this to the planet. It was definitely. I didn't think it would start out that way. But it was definitely an eco horror. This is definitely, like our lives are a cautionary tale for what we're doing to the planet and shit. And unfortunately, what could have been something if they went the Romero route and left it ambiguous, then I think this movie would have sold a little bit better. But they decided not to. And whoever greenlit, I would never have greenlit. If I was, it's like, I like what you've got here. Do this, make it more ambiguous. Because if we beat the audience over the head with this, it's just not going to make the money that it could, because we're spending all this money on these fantastic practical effects to really give people the skin crawling, to give them the heebie-jeebies, especially when weird shit starts coming out of the beach, coming out of the water. I want people to see that, okay? And we're spending the money to do it. I want this film to make money. And if you beat them over the head with a green or an eco awareness message, then you're going to turn people off, because we know it's a big thing. We go to horror movies to deal with shit, not to be reminded of shit.
Well, if at the end of the horror film, at the end of this movie, if you were coming out and having a discussion, like if we were on this, if we were here right now talking about this film saying, hey, I think that this could have been an allegory for this, or that could have been an allegory for that, or the metaphors were here, you know what I mean? So the film would have been so much better. But the simple fact is, I can look at everybody straight in the face and say, it's about global warming.
Yeah, and what happens is it stifles that conversation that you would have afterwards, because when you have that ambiguous ending, then what do you want to do? You want to get with your friends and you want to talk. I picked up this. Yeah. Oh, I picked up. Oh, and you get this back and forth, and it lets you relive the movie, and it stores into your brain of the films that you've seen versus everyone walk out and be like, yeah, we got the same.
Yeah, I figured it out.
That's it. Move on.
Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing that makes you say, hey guys, you go check this fucking thing out. You might say, hey, go check out this weird scene in this movie where this, she's pulling a worm out of her foot. Go check. That's kind of gross. But otherwise, the movie is
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think you just might as well make a glorified commercial.
Commercial.
Just a straight, just straight PETA commercial. There you go.
Yeah, really.
So I think,
all we needed were Sarah McLachlan singing in the background, petting a puppy dog.
I will remember you.
And while I don't mind at all having some kind of message in the horror film, or the film being a metaphor for something. Obviously, films like we talked about Relic last week, which is a metaphor for definitely watching your elders pass, elders deteriorate and die.
See, but if you remember that, all three of us had a different version of what that means. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're talking
exactly.
That's what makes the movie good, is the fact that 10 different people can watch the film. They can watch Relic, and then the Relic. Oops. They can watch the Relic. Relic. Did I say it right?
Relic, yeah.
10 different people can watch Relic and have 10 different versions of what they think the movie's about.
Yeah.
That's what makes a film good. Now, when you have 1,000 people watching this beach house, it's like, go on.
And I would say thing with movies like The Babadook and movies like Midsummer. I know many people did. I spoke with several fans who loved Midsummer for what it was on its face. As just, I love the fact that it was, this is a sunny, bright and sunny horror film in that respect.
Right.
But there were some people that didn't pick up on that it was a meditation on grief and loss and the baggage that you carry with you from trauma. And it was like, it was all over the place, but it was so subtle. So it's just to add like a
but even when it was shoved down your throat in Midsummer, it still worked, right? When it was over the top, the grief thing. Of course, like the part where the guy, what's his name, gets the length of the relationship wrong by exactly 6 months. That wasn't subdued. That was over the top, right? Because it had been six months prior to that day is when he wanted to break the whole thing off, but this tragic thing happened with her family. So in his mind, they stopped dating at that time, and hers, they're still together. Yeah. That was way over the top. But because everything else was done so played down, so subtly, so there was minuscule, is very much a thinking person's horror film. Even that over the top part didn't ruin anything. It actually added to the dynamic of the film.
Well, because at that moment, it becomes a shocking moment when everything is subvert and under the table. And then you're right, where she's like, no, we've been together 4 years. No, it's 3.5 years. It becomes a shock. It's like a stinger at that one moment, because there are people who watch that film and talk about like a family relationship on it, because that was the main focus. He wanted out, but her family died. He felt that, I can't do this
add
now.
to the trauma, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it would be a total asshole to done. It was like, by the way, I'm breaking up with you. It was like, now you're really all alone. That would be absolutely horrific. But it does add the obviously, as they're going through the story, they're doing the thing in the foreign what country was it? Norway.
Yeah, I think Norway.
Yeah. So when they're out there and they're going through the story, it's an interesting concept that in his mind, they're not together. And in her mind, he is literally the only thing that got her through this traumatic event. So in his mind, that she's just another girl. In her mind, he is her lifeline. that literally kept her head above water when she was going through this trauma. And so that dynamic is just wild. Sir Kev says, my favorite practical effect of all time is the plate glass beheading in The Omen back in '76. That's an excellent one. Yeah, that was rough to watch. David Warner, whack, and it's like a head to the spin.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Mandevil says, I can't watch your part on the next film we're going to talk about because it's on my list of must watch. I heard it's probably the best Irish horror movie ever made, so I'm going to duck out of here. Cheers, Mandevil.
All right,
Mandevil. Take care.
Oh well, I guess I should probably go ahead and ask the question now that we're going to hard transition into the Hallow.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of the beach house. Does horror advance conversations? Or I think better yet, should horror advance conversations? Let us know in the side chat down in the comment section below or at our email address, weekinhorror@gmail.com.
Conversations about what?
Conversations about anything.
It's just topical conversations. Yeah.
Topical conversations. It could be conversations about what we're going to have for dinner later. It doesn't really matter as long as you come out of the film talking about something. I'm just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. We want to talk about topical conversations. Again, like we were talking about, having multiple people think that movie means multiple different things.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it should be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey guys, This one was about global warming. I figured it out. Let's move on to the next one. Fuck yeah.
God, so it was just like, come on, guys, really?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just
they should have had what's his name from The Day After Tomorrow telling us about desalinization points.
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid to that, yeah.
I mean, it could have been something subtle. It could have been like, what if it's this? Even if you write that the characters themselves are speculating about what it could have been, that would have been good. It's like, what's causing this? Maybe it's this. Maybe it's this. Oh, I have no idea. Who the fuck cares? We're trying to survive. I like that dynamic. So
and then honestly, just never answer the question. Just like leave it up. Like I watched Tremors the other day, and it was like, where did these creatures come from? They never answer the question. Who cares? Nope. They're here.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Doesn't matter where they came from. There's giant fucking worms in the earth that are eating people.
Yes. And then they mutate into little things that aren't as giant, but they still eat people. And then all of a sudden they mutate to things that fart themselves into the air. And then they have wings and all kinds of weird shit. Then we're going to go back in time. We're going to talk about when they're babies. And then where they who cares?
Who cares? They're there.
So Rob Park says, this is the main point for horror, in my opinion. Social commentary and horror should always be tied. If I just want to watch people die, I will pop in a Stallone flick.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a good point. And we stated many times that's the purpose of the horror genre. The horror genre allows us to confront and address and either vicariously deal with or cathartically deal with that which is ailing our society at the time. Mm-hmm. That's why you typically horror follows tragedy. Or horror, or big heavy duty discussions. So, which is why I think we're probably going to be seeing a lot more eco horror as the situation with our environment, the situation with the land, the sea. I think there's a new one that just recently came out called Super Deep. Not a porno, but about Russian lab experimentation. But that I think is another eco horror. I think we're going to see a lot more of these things coming up as the topic becomes bigger and bigger. And especially in our government. So,
yep.
Disclaimer.
Yep. Not a pornography. Not a pornography.
Oh, I didn't make that banner.
It just flashed us on the screen.
Not a porno.
Not a porno. All right, JL. Speaking of not a porno, you're playing the bass with it like a porno.
Sorry, I hit it again. Sorry.
We got to figure that out.
Wrong tab.
There is no H. Well, not in this song.
All right, our last one for the night, and to one of our listeners had to Leo because he hasn't seen it yet. But this one released July 10th, 2015, and it is the movie The Hallow. God dang it! I've got to move my mic better. You guys can hear me just fine. I don't need it this close to my hands. What do I do with my hands? Directed by Corin Hardy, written by Corin Hardy and Felipe Marino, starring Joseph Mall, Bojana Novakovic, Michael McLatten, sorry, and Michael Smiley. So
everybody, it is Eugene Warren.
Sorry about that. It's just like that one too.
I nailed my names.
You did. That's 2 weeks in a row. 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, mine were Italian. So
I hit the Russian girl just fine.
Whoa.
Not a porno. Not a porno. So egos. What the fuck, Gavlar? Ego horror, Greta Thunberg.
Shame on you.
Anyway,
she should have been in that movie. She should have been walking around. Shame on you. You get the worm in your foot. Sorry.
Breaking this one down for those who have not seen it. In essence, as resources dwindle and as countries or governments begin to run out of money, the country of Ireland is contemplating selling its last publicly owned forest for the resources, and it's on a small island off the coast of Ireland. And they are going to. The government sends out a kind of like a surveyor to go out and check out the forest and make sure that there's nothing that they need to know about before they make this big sale. And of course, the local inhabitants of the island are warning him that no, he's trespassing. He shouldn't mess with the forest because that's where the Hallow lives. And deep in the heart of Ireland, I really, really liked it. I really, really dug this one because you don't get a lot of Irish horror films, like legit Irish horror films.
We got the Leprechaun.
Produced in Ireland, shot in Ireland.
I meant the remake.
Starring an Irish actor who is the lead in this. So. But a legitimate, Irish horror film is really, really cool. I love foreign horror, and things take, as the father delves deeper into the woods and awakens what is the supernatural forces that are in there, things get pretty, pretty gnarly. So, although I will give it's interesting because this is an Irish folklore horror film, but it's Irish folklore meets, you guessed it, eco horror.
This is exactly why this film is better than The Beach House.
Yes, very much so.
Because it's more subvert on it. And instead of it being like global warming, it talks about like deforestation on it. Because, hey, we're going to tear down this forest and you happen to have things that live in the forest and they fight back.
Fuck you. Sorry. For those who are not in the live chat, for those who will be listening to this later, we're left because Johnny just basically put a message up saying, I love foreign horrors. I said foreign horror. Foreign horror.
Continue. That sounds exactly the same.
Continue, Eugene.
$1. Me love you long time. On it. But what's actually great is the fact that they're able to dive into some of the Irish culture, and it's a straight Irish film, and it's nice because it's well done. It doesn't feel like an American film.
Mm-hmm. It also doesn't feel like they're trying to shove like, oh, this is an Irish film. It's just natural. It's like those things about that it's Ireland or that you know what I mean? It just comes naturally to the film. It's not, again, they're not beating you over the head with, hey, we're Irish people, leprechauns and shit.
Yeah, everybody's gingers and all this other kind of stuff. No, it's just
fucking whatever dance, none of that shit.
No, it's just the story takes place in Ireland.
Right.
And that's it. To me, it's very similar to like a Dark song. It's like, hey, this is just where it takes place. And that's it. These are just these characters, and we're just going to go from there, which is the way to do it.
I really, really do, and that's what I really liked about it. It wasn't overt. It kind of had a message, but the message wasn't the point of it. The focus of the film was the relationship between the husband and the wife and their newborn child, and them trying to basically, do the thing. And they run into the problems that they have with the locals, the problems that they have obviously with the things in the forest itself. But this was very much a character piece where the focus is on the dad and what the dad is willing to do in order to make sure his family has a home, make sure his family is safe, make sure that he's doing his job. And it is, basically it's a guy in obviously this incredible supernatural situation where he's forced to make some of the hardest decisions possible that I think dads are faced with every single day, and I like that because it is.
Well, I've never had to determine whether or not I'm going to sacrifice one of my children to.
I wouldn't say every day, but
but what I'm saying is, I like that the focus was the dad, the dad, his relationship with his wife, his relationship with the people around him, what he's dealing with, and then what he has to do in the end. So I dug that I dug that fact, and I like that. That's what made it strong. Not because they didn't have to focus. This is it's in Ireland. That's where it be. It doesn't have to focus on the deforestation aspect or the fact that countries are giving up their natural resources because they're running out of money. These are all major things. No, we have a very localized story that focuses on one family, one dad who's trying to be the best dad that he can be, the best husband he can be. Forced into an impossible scenario. It had hallmarks of like Stephen King to it, to be honest. Where it focuses on kind of like the everyman who's suddenly thrust into an impossible situation. So, and I like that. I dug that. And it alludes to a bigger thing, to a grander universe. But we don't need to go there. We just want to focus on this one aspect.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So it doesn't have to hit you over the head with the obvious, things that the tropes that we're talking about with deforestation and running out of natural. It doesn't have to hit you over the head with that. That is mentioned in passing. Well, not necessarily in passing, but it's mentioned early on, and it's not, fucking. You don't get hit over the head with it like that we did in the beach house. It's something that's important for you to know, and then you can kind of forget it. Because it's more about what happens in this very localized part of the world in this story.
Definitely. Yeah, because once they're already in the home and you have the attacks begin, and it becomes just a family fighting to survive. They're trying to keep the lights on. Right. It's these creatures that they're fighting against that are actually really awesome creatures, by the way.
They're really decent, yeah. And Sarcasm says, great jump scares with the tree critters and the keyhole. Never look in the keyhole in a horror film. And this is good advice. This should be one of the rules. Never look in the keyhole.
Never look in the keyhole in any genre.
You will regret it. That moment, and because before the big reveal, before you figure out what these things are, it's like the moment when and Joseph Mall. I fucking love Joseph Mall. Excellent character actor, terribly underrated. He's one of my favorite ones. He's actually one of the villains in the movie Heartless, which is one of my favorite British horror films. But Joseph Mall is fantastic as the exasperated dad trying to deal with what he's doing. That moment when they get stuck, they get trapped out there in the car, and the baby's in the car seat, and then he gets shoved in the trunk, and just the whole time you're like, this kid's gonna get taken. This is what's gonna happen. And I love that it had those great tension building moments, just really, really strong across the board. I really enjoyed it. But when I said it was Irish folklore meets eco horror, because it has that. I do like how it grounded the idea of these creatures in reality, because this came out in 2015. And should be interesting thing to note is that in 2013, the video game The Last of Us came out for the PlayStation, and one of the greatest video games ever made. But in that one, there were cordyceps zombies in it, and in this one, the cordyceps fungus plays a significant role in these creatures, and I guess in the creation of these creatures, or as in they're infecting people, and turning them into these. Woods inhabiting monsters that do this with the shit that you have the hand shit, which
into the eyeball, that
was fucking freaky. When you just trying to get her in the attic, that was a major thing. I really, really dug that, and it was just I like that it kind of grounded in that way. It was like a weird version of the cordyceps fungus, and I think probably the only reason that it was put in this one was because Last of Us had been out less than 2 years. It was hot as fuck when it came out. Everybody was talking about cordyceps zombies. Cordyceps all of a sudden became a topic in horror channels again, and that's what this dropped. And I thought it was cool. I thought it was something fun to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great scene. I enjoyed it.
One thing that stuck out to me was the cover art for the Hallow. Looks like it. What the fuck? Do, 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 do.
You're talking about the one where it's like the big ass, the tree, and then the guy looks like he's about to walk into the tree, or something.
And it's got it's got the hollow on there. It kind of I don't know. For some, what the fuck is going on over there, JL?
Nothing. That wasn't me
doing.
No, I didn't hit anything. It wasn't
banging around, or is that you?
It might be me. I actually kicked the table. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Aha! I wasn't with the hooker today.
No, it reminded me of fucking Willow. Like it could have been the sequel to Willow.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Just that I don't know, the same. I don't know what it was. It just looked like it reminded me of Willow. Don't know why.
For those looking to watch it, I believe that this one is on Amazon Prime. Free to watch on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
But I liked it. Good strong performances. I like the dynamic between the dad and the wife. The fact, and it comes down to, and they even touched on the changeling child, because of all folklore things I've seen, especially in horror, the changeling child is what really comes along the most. The idea that the fae, or fairies, or mischievous beings, will steal children and then replace them with a fairy that looks exactly like the child. And then, the kind of the idea behind it, a hypothesis, is that this arose in the 16th and the 17th centuries when people didn't really understand autism. And then all of a sudden, what was a happy-go-lucky baby that started like this, all of this, or a small child, all of a sudden their personality changes. And all of a sudden, it doesn't seem like their child anymore. Maybe their child was replaced. And so the idea of the changeling child, which was most likely what they were describing, was autism. But most horror films I've watched that deal with folklore always touch on this one, because there's nothing more terrifying than having a child disappear, especially when something is dragging your child away and you're rushing to try and catch up with it. And they hit on this one. I thought it was done well. And then, of course, there's that moment where the kid vanishes, and then the mom catches up and manages, give me back a baby. And then you got the baby again. It's like, is it?
And
really
want this baby?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, there was another horror film that the last one I watched that dealt with that was fucking a Christmas Horror Story. Had a changeling child in that one. The family goes out to cut down the Christmas tree, and they lose sight of the son for a moment. And then when they finally catch up to him, it's not. He's acting very weird. So, but I like it. It has those emotional moments. It has great beat, and of course, the ending's a little bit to be expected. I like that last final moment where it's like, oh, did she take the right kid home? And like, which one is the right one? I dug that. And then, but then, of course, the obvious cliffhanger is like, oh, the fungusy shit that exists out there that turns people into these things is still there and is in the trees that they're carting out as they begin to deforest the area. So,
gonna infect the world.
Take over the world.
And they don't need to explain. And I like that they didn't need to explain. Because obviously, the things when they first buy the house, there's iron up all over the bars, and they start taking the iron down. That really pisses off the locals. And so you've got to keep the iron up on the windows. And
that's funny because that's like an anti-leprechaun thing, isn't it?
It's anti-fae. It's anti-fae. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
And I thought it was intriguing but they never explain why. They don't need to. It's like, why does iron keep the fae away? It doesn't fucking matter.
I think that's really important, right? The over exposition. They don't do that. They just let it happen. Like, you don't. Why do I need to? Because there's a priest here who's telling me about the fae all of a sudden. No, fuck that shit. They're mad because you took the iron down, because the people who know why it's up there, they're upset, and the people who took it down, they don't know why they're upset. But it's not heavy-handed. Perfect.
Right. Hey, what you do is
perfect balance.
It comes down to assuming the fact that the audience isn't stupid. Like, the audience is going to pick
even
up
if
on
the
that.
audience is stupid, right? It's one of those things that you don't have to be so. You don't have to write everything out in crayon for everybody. Even if the audience doesn't get it, that's perfectly fine. If the audience comes to us and says, why were they so upset about the iron coming down? You know what that's going to do? It's going to make them look into the movie a little more. It's going to make them probably go and rewatch it. See if they can't pick up on something.
And they'll learn, yes, iron wards away the fae, which is why when he grabbed the iron after he was infected, all of a sudden it burned his hand.
Right.
And I was like, there you go. And I like
perfect exposition, right?
Perfect exposition.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it. That's how you explain things.
Show, don't tell.
Show, don't tell.
And then anybody who hasn't seen it, definitely check out the Hallow. It's on Amazon Prime. All the great hallmarks of a good horror film. Everything that makes a horror film great, and just enough for everybody. Plus, not to mention, it's an Irish film, and Irish films, they're for this to be fully produced, funded in Ireland, shot in Ireland. Mm-hmm. That's a rare thing. Oftentimes productions don't, they'll move to England, they'll go across the channel to shoot in France, or to shoot in Germany, or to shoot in the Netherlands, areas where they have big tax credits. Or they'll shoot in London, where where England has a really big tax incentives. But to do this in Ireland is a big support for film productions that shoot in that country, because they don't come around that often, especially a horror film. So definitely highly recommend you checking this one out. And I think Amazon Prime is where I found it, and it's free to watch, so you just need a subscription, no rental costs. And Sarah Velez, the Hallow, Hallow, the Hallow.
No, the Hallow, Hollow. That one is a completely different film.
Yep.
That is
and it happened to also come out in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Terry Pratchett. Let's see. Terry Pratchett goes into the use of iron to stop the fairies and elves and lords and ladies, and hypothesizes that it is the reason horseshoes are nailed above doorways for luck. They are, yes, because they over the entrance of the door, and it depends upon, I think, which way the horseshoe is angled, because he's supposed to face up or face down. So
yeah, I think one is I remember I looked it up once, and I'm probably going to butcher this because it was years ago. That one is to keep in, or one is to bring in, and the other one is to keep out. I forget. I could be wrong though. You know what? Let me just look it up, because I looked it up a long time ago.
Yes, and the George said has popped in. Good to see you, and the George said. But yeah, this one was definitely a good one, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it. All right, so so that's what it leads us to. I want to ask the audience: do you guys really dig foreign horror films, whether it's Ireland or it's Germany or it's France or it's Japanese, Korean, Russian, whatever? All countries out there produce horror movies. Do you prefer foreign horror films or American horror films, or is it kind of like a mix of the two? You love them all. Let us know in the live chat, or in the comments below, or hit us up, weekinhorror@gmail.com. Alex still needs that reading material while he's going through the first few weeks of having a newborn. Yeah. Apparently he is fucking exhausted. So when he comes back, he will definitely have photos, and he'll have lots of things to tell us from what I've understood. He's really, really tired, like all the time now. It's like he has. I think at one point he had slept in like 36 hours. So. Let's see. Tony Regime says, some say the luck runs out if the horns of the horseshoe point down. But if it is just iron to stop fairies, it doesn't matter. Okay. Right. Mixture. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So hanging it with the, U side up, that's to collect luck. And then U side down, it's considered bad luck because you're not collecting luck.
Good point. Because, there you go. All right. Learn something new every day. All right. Charlie Welch says, I've been liking more and more Asian stuff. Asian horror is strong. They don't really have the, I would say the predilections that American horror does, and they're willing to go into really extreme directions.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Sarcasm says, I'm not a fan of subs, but a few are worth the reading, like Train to Busan.
Mm-hmm.
Train to Busan is an excellent. There were some
that happened in real time. For a second, yeah. That happened in real time.
That was fun.
Let's see. Tony Regime says, I love The Day of the Beast, Spanish film about the Antichrist. Very cool. And Ivy Gentry says, I always prefer England, Ireland, Wales, or Scotland for like everything. Definitely. And Tony Regime, yes, you are right. Like he says, he prefers the Japanese original of The Ring. I also prefer the Japanese Ringu, Ju-on. The Japanese original horror films are always fucking terrifying. I love them all. Sarah Velez says, I love them all. Korean zombie horror is awesome. The Japanese are great for ghosts, psychological horror from Germany. Hell fucking yeah. Excellent choices. All right. So, Eugene, it's about that time.
It's a time that everybody's been waiting for.
It's the time. Yeah.
It's because Charlie
music. Charlie Welch says pause for effect. but absolutely, it's the time. The only reason that people watch this show is because we give away free shit and
free stuff.
It's trivia time, and we are giving away for this last one for well, technically we're still in June, but technically this is a July episode. This is the last one, limited edition shirt number 3. So get your. We're giving away a kink shaming cannibal shirt. So definitely. This goes to whoever wins this one. So Eugene, take it away.
All right. The trivia question is, what is the name of the all-female heavy metal band that made a live nightclub appearance in The Rejuvenator? And I'll say it again. What was the name of the all-female heavy metal band that made a live nightclub appearance in The Rejuvenator?
Ooh.
The first one who comments with it below will get the prize.
Limited edition Week in Horror shirt number 3. We're giving this one away.
Yes.
See who's got it. Yeah, Rob Park says free stuff. Yes. It's like, no, unfortunately, Tony Regime, it was not Pussy Magnet.
I think it should have been.
Chris Durham Music Channel says Sorrel book. It's like, unfortunately, no. Sorry.
This is a tough one.
Thank you, Ivy. Ivy Gage says not the only reason that they watch. We appreciate that very much.
That's the biggest.
Sarcasm's got it. I will make sure I got that right. I said Sarcasm is the first one come up. Says Poison Dollies.
Sarcasm's the first one I have.
Sarcasm's first. Let's double check that because I don't want what happened last week to happen again. We good?
Looks good on my end.
Looks good on my end.
All right, we have confirmed. Congratulations. Let me write that down.
And the correct answer is Poison Dollies.
Oh, Poison Dollies.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that this one was kind of obscure. I know a lot of people did not see this movie, but I'm really curious. Sarcasm, did you Google it that fast, or I mean, did you?
That's okay if you did.
It's okay. I'm just curious if you've watched this movie.
As we wait for him to respond.
We're gonna wait 15 seconds.
And then we just sit here silently, just waiting for him.
So some other answers that came around. Hole. No, it wasn't Hole. Girls' School. No. L7 from Commander Darklight. And let's see. And okay. Yep. Charlie says he got it. So fantastic. That is confirmation from the audience. That's pretty awesome. So I am curious whether he's seen the movie or he was just able to Google that fast. So very awesome. All right then. Tanya says, I haven't seen that movie in over 10 years. Or Rob Parks says, man, no one told me Google is a thing. Yes, Rob Parks, you can use Google.
Rob Parks, there's this thing. It's called Lugal.
This is the thing is we allow people to use Google because the thing is this: if somebody knows it right off the bat, they're going to be faster than anybody who Googles anyway. Yeah. So if no one happens to know it, Google it and then be the first one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Sir Kev says I actually watched it and specifically looked at the background for the name while they were playing. Nice. Yeah, he prepped for it.
Yeah, he prepped.
He watched this movie and said, I bet you this is going to be it.
It's going to be this. Yeah.
and
awesome.
And this is the thing.
Rob Parks, I'm sorry. Shit, no one tells me anything.
Well, the thing is, now you know. And the thing is so when we do our closing plugs, we tell you the movies we're going to talk about next week. So if you want to watch them, look for background stuff where actors, bands, all the other kind of stuff, that gives you a leg up on the prize.
Oh, fan-fucking-tastic. Well, congratulations to Sarcasm for picking up a limited edition shirt. We will get that printed up and sent out to you ASAP. All right, then.
That brings us another episode of Week in Horror to a close. Thank you all so much for listening, and we truly hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next week when we discuss After Sundown, VHS 2, The Swarm, and 8-Legged Freaks. We'd like to spend, goddamn, this is what happens when you don't sleep, right? We'd like to send a special shout out to our amazing patrons who have helped us make the show the success it has become. Thank you all so much. Visit us at weekinhorror.net, where you can find links to all of our episodes, our bios, our merch store at Teespring, and of course, enter your email for a permanent entry to win a mystery horror shirt every month, courtesy of $6shirts.com. For more horror entertainment, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Followers get our daily splatter, a bit of horror info every day right into your feed. You never know what new horrors you may discover. Subscribe to our channel and smash that bell like a zombie head for all the latest updates from the show. We really hope you enjoy the new live format, and we'd love to get your feedback. Be sure to leave us a comment below, as the interactions really help us with the dreaded algorithm. That's right. He's a new bad guy in the newest video game. Algorithm. And lastly, if you truly love what we do here and you would like and are able to support our production, you can do so through our Patreon. We have subscriber tiers as low as $1. We also have bonus and exclusive content and horror films every month for our highest tiers. However, if you'd prefer, you can support the show through our PayPal as well. Links to everything, including our Discord community, where you can find film recommendations, trailers, trivia games, horror watch parties, and even interact directly with us, are in the description. And while the country is finally beginning to recover from recent events, we know that things are still pretty tight for many people. As always, simply commenting, liking, and sharing this show with friends in your local horror community is the absolute best way to help us continue to grow. We appreciate each and every one of you for being the greatest audience a podcast could have. I'm Johnny O.
I'm JL.
And I'm Eugene.
We'll see you next week. And as always, stay scared.